Alright guys, so we've got a little bit of a issue with the Explorer. This is a 2005 Explorer, 4x4. It's got a 4-liter V6 in it, and what's happening is the check engine light came on and our temperature gauge shot straight up to hot. So what we did was we pulled it over, checked for any leaks. There were not any leaks. We checked the coolant level when we let the vehicle cool off. Make sure you let the vehicle cool off. Do not open the coolant. If the vehicle is warm, you will burn yourself and have the possibility of it shooting back out in your face and scalding you, which is not a good situation. Anyway, so the symptoms are telling us that this is probably a corroded and stuck thermostat, because as soon as we shut the vehicle down, started back up again, the temperature returned to normal. The steam went away, and it can blow a bit of steam, and you can smell coolant if your thermostat is sticking open or closed. The temperature in the engine is not regulated properly, and you're going to get have the potential for an overheat. But these engines are great. They'll shut down cylinders in the meantime to help you get a little bit further. But you want to get these things checked ASAP and get them maintained properly so your engine's running optimally. What we're going to need for this, I do not have a pair of hose pliers which clamp down and close off the hose, but I do have a quick clamp that will suffice, so we don't have a whole ton of coolant leaking out. You're going to want a pair of needle nose pliers. If you have a pair of angled needle nose, yeah, even better. This one isn't hard to reach on the Ford. It's right in front, and I'll show you that in a minute. And what you're going to need is a 3/8 inch ratchet with a 3-inch extension and an 8mm socket on the end. So we're going to go ahead and first recheck that coolant level, make sure it's doing all right, and that's really easy to do. Actually, I'll bring the camera along with me so you can see. Right here. Super simple. Nice and cooled off. No issues. And oh my, it is a little bit low. So we're going to need to top that off to its proper level. But I'm going to wait to do that until we get that thermostat changed and checked. So it's potential of leaking a little bit less coolant. Got a flexible work light here. Works pretty well. Sun's going down, so we're going to need to have a little bit extra light shed upon our work surface here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp down this this hose. Not going to hurt it. I'll actually bring you in here. Take a look at where the thermostat is. This is the thermostat right here. It just has these 3 8mm bolts holding it on. It looks like you got to take a bunch more off, but you don't. That's all you need to do is to take that off right there. You don't want to tighten these too tight. There's a gasket under there. You don't need to torque these down to any specific poundage. regular maintenance of a vehicle like this is good. Just know your vehicle, be aware of any issues with it. If it feels different, if it starts running different, check it out. And just keep your eye on it. You can keep a vehicle running for a very, very long period of time. You know, I grew up in Michigan, and sometimes the rust would eat the car before the engine would go. Down here in Texas, where we are now, luckily the bodies of the vehicles last longer, and they can last as long as the engine, which is nice. Okay, so we're just going to pull that up. Very simple. I'll show you what the thermostat looks like. There's the thermostat right there. Now, I got a new one at the auto parts store just a little while ago. It was $30, well, 28 bucks, and we need to get this one out of here. And there's an O-ring around this. I'll show you that we need to keep and then replace on the new thermostat when we put it back in. As you can see, sorry if the towel was in the way, but as you can see, that thermostat was stuck in there pretty good. I needed one of these little hook tools. I still don't know the exact name for them, but they come in very handy. The pliers wouldn't work to pull that thermostat out of there, so I had to get that baby out of there with this little tool. Very, very handy tool. Highly recommend it. So, our O-ring is right on the top here. We're going to save that for our other thermostat. There's the old one. Don't mix them up. There's that O-ring. Don't lose it. So now the new one has perfectly dropped right down in there, and we can now reassemble this with no issues. You know, working on engines and doing mechanical things don't always work out perfectly the first time you do them, and you just want to be patient. You don't want to break something. And you know, in my youth, I was very impatient, and I would end up blooding my knuckles for no reason, when a little patience and thought about how things go back together would have done me a greater service. The stress and anger, the silliness, just is kind of meaningless and pointless. I guess that comes with a certain level of maturity. But if you can, if your kids are watching you, you don't want them to see you. You want to teach them, and you don't want them to see you lose your temper over something that's really silly to lose your temper over. Not the end of the world if I couldn't get this thermostat in on the first try. Release my clamp over here. My makeshift pair of hose clamp pliers. You want to check your hoses on a regular basis. Make sure they're not cracking. They're in good condition. And everything here seems to be. Yeah, I maintain this vehicle well. Also, I want it to last. All right, now we're gonna go and we're gonna fill up the coolant. On this coolant tank, it has markings on the side that you'll be able to see. It says where it should be filled to when it's cool, and it is cool now. So carefully replenish this. Alright folks, what we're going to do is check to see if things are running properly. And you can do that by checking the heat. And if the heat's working properly and coming out at a hot temperature. Alright everyone, I checked the heat. I turned on, it heated, the temperature came up just fine. I turned on the heater inside the car to check the temperature, and it's nice and warm, which is a positive sign. Now we want to check to see if there's any leaks here. Now what I hear is a faint whining noise, and I can see actually on the back side that there is a small leak. So I'm going to torque that back down and make sure that everything is sealed up properly, or else that's going to spell big trouble. Okay folks, here's a lesson learned. So I checked this before. I ran the heater on the inside. I made sure it was heating up properly. Came back out here, shut the engine off, and to check for any leaks. So when I did that, this was leaking. And I torqued down on the bolts a little bit, and it was still leaking. So what I did was wait for it to cool off. You can tell, you can push on the hose a little bit. If there's any bubbling or any coolant coming out from around this thing, there's something wrong. So I took this back off, and the tiniest little thing, the O-ring has a tad of a tiny little chamfer on it. And I flipped over the O-ring, and it was barely noticeable, and I flipped over the O-ring, put it back together, redid the test, and there's no leaks now. So we're good to go. And that's how you change a thermostat and diagnose a thermostat problem on a 2005 Ford Explorer with a 4-liter engine. Hope you enjoyed the video. Give us a thumbs up.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed the video. Please click on the subscribe button to subscribe to our channel. And if you're interested, click on the video on the right hand side of the screen to find out how we are in the process of getting ourselves out of debt. Enjoy, everyone.